Syd Barrett is the unruly legend that co-founded the iconic rock band Pink Floyd in 1965. Being the frontman and primary songwriter of one of the most famous British psychedelic groups, Barrett was famous for his stream-of-consciousness free-form performances and the use of abstract and imaginative lyrical styles. But this genius came from a dark place of a disturbed mind that could not attain relief until it was too late. After his death, his family, including his brother Alan Barrett, have come forward with confessions fans have long denied to give insight into the mind of the madman of music, his life, and the days following up to his death. Barrett was the fourth of 5 children to a middle-class family, and ever since he was young, he did not receive much attention. His interest in music began from short breaks to play piano as a kid and developed when he bought himself a ukulele age 10 and then a banjo at age 11. Since there was no one to show his little talents to, he usually practiced by himself on his many instruments, learning along as he went. At 14, he saved up money to buy himself an acoustic guitar to learn how to play it properly before investing in an electric one a year later. He was a talented young fellow and built his own amplifier too, ready to work for his passion, even if he worked alone. Soon after he began playing, he decided to develop a music persona for himself that would be different from his usual self. He called this alter ego Syd D, inspired by an old Cambridge bassist, changing the spelling from Syd to stand out. He liked when his classmates used this nickname but created a strong boundary against its use at home. His sister Rosemary said he was never Syd at home. He would never have allowed it. This was perhaps because he had never received the love and encouragement he wanted at home, leaving him to crave a separate identity that was his own. Barrett's life was far from good, but it soon took a turn for the worse when his father died of cancer in 1961, less than a month before his 16th birthday. Depressed and heartbroken, Barrett refused to write in his diary, a habit he had previously joyfully partaken in. His mother finally saw his state, realizing the neglect he had felt all these years, and finally encouraged him to go towards music, allowing the band he had formed to perform in the front room. Finally, feeling as though he belonged somewhere, Barrett began letting out his true self, combining his love for music through playing instruments, singing, and songwriting. After he realized he had his mother's blessing, Barrett also began experimenting, and in 1964, he became the part of the beginnings of the rock band Pink Floyd. He named the band himself and wrote many of the songs for it, his unique guitar hits and lyrical work contributing to the band's early hits and initial success. His unique lyricism is shown in the songs See Emily Play, Arnold Lane, and Bike, which he worked on during his time with the band. However, his success soon took a turn for the worst. In the summer of 1965, right after Pink Floyd went into studio for the first time and began to see the start of their success, Barrett went on his first LSD trip with his friends. During one of these, he ended up naked in a bath with another friend reciting no rules, and continued the drug use throughout the remainder of the summer. The addiction spiraled and led the band to develop interest in and decide to join a psych sect, which they were allowed with the except of Barrett, who was deemed too young. Frustrated and angry, Barrett decided to go on a more dangerous route, which led him to the point of no return. During the late 1967, Barrett had become a heavy user of psychedelic drugs, and the prolonged effects had begun showing up in his physique and behavior. The same musician who was once described as kind, joyful, friendly, and extroverted soon became withdrawn, detached, and turned inward, unwelcoming to those around him, as if lost in his own world. This turned deadly when Barrett began experiencing mental health problems that included psychotic breaks. He was completely detached from reality and started seeing hallucinations, intense mood swings, and memory lapses. When he was not actively exhibiting positive symptoms, he became catatonic, signaling a possible start of schizophrenia. Although these behaviors had not been sudden, gradually creeping up on him and those who loved him, the main catalyst was a mysterious break he had taken on which he had gone missing with some friends. When he came back, it was as if a completely different person had returned instead. One of the most horrifying features of his behavior was his blank, dead-eyed stare, which made everyone a stranger to him. He did not recognize his friends, did not understand where he was, and often forgot who he was at all. Maybe this was also a side effect of the fame, since Barrett had never been particularly skilled at dealing with popularity. When an old friend met up Barrett during this time, he described him to have been a completely changed person. According to his friend, Barrett just looked straight through him, barely acknowledged the fact that he was there as if he did not recognize him. But there was something else that was the final straw for his band members. The most important thing for a performer is to perform, and to a certain extent, as long as they do that, it is easy to overlook the less savory aspects of their behavior. However, for Barrett, the performing itself seemed impossible. During concerts, it was described that it was as if a switch had been turned, since he barely sang on stage and looked ahead absently, not registering his surroundings. It came to the point that he no longer moved his lips and became a statue, no longer making any contributions to the band he had once been such a happy part of. The clock was ticking, and the time came that Barrett was let go because of his rapidly declining health. The members were sad to see him go and went on to record "Shine on You, Crazy Diamond," which was their tribute to him and his eccentric behavior. After being removed, Barrett decided to pursue a solo career and release a few albums which were known for their unconventional music. However, this was not for long, since he soon became a recluse. His personal life was also in turmoil, since his drug use and unconfirmed mental illnesses made him a difficult person to be around. On one occasion, he had to be pulled away from his girlfriend, who he was beating with a mandolin, and threw another woman across the room on another. He ended up remaining single for the rest of his life, unmarried and without children. His brother, Alan Barrett, talked about the last years of his life, describing how he had frequent stomach problems and digestive issues. He believed these masked the onset of the pancreatic cancer that he was later diagnosed with. Alan Barrett revealed that his brother, while ill, had never seemed in any great pain despite losing weight and suffering from ulcers, which changes the popular belief that he had been actively suffering during his last years. He also said, "I suppose it's possible this might have delayed the ultimate diagnosis, but we can take comfort from the fact he was not in any great pain and didn't seem to suffer too much. This brings a great relief to those who felt these days were spent in pain, but also unfolds an ironic truth." What finally took the life of Syd Barrett at the age of 60 was what had killed his father years ago in the same fashion and begun his path down the music industry. He died on 7th July, 2006, but it was announced a week later, followed by his body being cremated at his funeral on 18th July. Since his illness had been closely guarded due to his nature as a recluse, his death came as a shock to his friends, previous bandmates, and fans worldwide. The band member Wright announced how upset he was at his passing, describing Barrett as the guiding light that leaves a legacy which continues to inspire. Another member, Gilmer, stated of Barrett, "His career was painfully short, yet he touched more people than he could ever know." Syd Barrett was a troubled icon and musical genius who impacted many people despite having a career cut short by mental health problems that received little attention and care when he was alive. His memory inspires us to care for the artists and young people of the coming generations so they do not have to suffer as he did and can continue living lives that are blessed with good health and happiness. Barrett will always be remembered as an exemplary musician in the psychedelic genre, forever altering our understanding of it. What is your favorite Syd Barrett song? Write down in the comments below.